Hey everyone, can people see my screen? Oh, that's good.
Yes. Mhm.
Fantastic. So as this month is Disability Awareness Month, I'm going to talk a little bit today about my life and some of the challenges and learnings I've had from living life with what some people call a hidden disability or a non-visible condition which affects my day-to-day life. So it's going to be kind of mostly non-technical and a little bit opinionated. Uh, all I want to do is raise awareness of something different about myself and millions of others around the world. It's not courageous or inspiring in any way. I just hope that it's something I say makes anyone more aware of the diversity in our community. It'll be worthwhile. So what am I talking about? Well, just like Florence and her machine, Daniel Radcliffe, Albert Einstein, and many others, I suffer from something called dyspraxia or Developmental Coordination Disorder. The DSM-5, which is the Diagnosis of Mental Disorders Manual, essentially says this is what it is. It's a condition which emerges when you're very young that makes it difficult to complete basic fine motor tasks like using cutlery, typing on a keyboard, tying shoelaces. And for many people, this continues into adulthood, like me, throughout their entire life. So it also presents sometimes extreme disorganization or messiness and an inability to plan or execute sequential tasks. And because you don't have any visible symptoms like on your body, it's described as a hidden disability, much like dyslexia or autistic spectrum conditions or attention deficit disorder and many others. And it's kind of ironic, really, because people who spend time with me in person tend to notice that there is something quite different about me. And I think many others can empathize with that. So I've kind of been like this all my life. School was really tough. I couldn't really ride a bike until I was 11. And even then, like I fell off a lot really badly. I was bad at most sports, which is not normal, but there are people in my family that are professional sports people. Almost everyone was super good, super active at sports. And school was just a bad time really for me, as it is for a lot of people. I really struggled to write and I really struggled to type on a keyboard. So every day when I came home, I would do this for like 2 hours, just throw a ball against the wall and catch it, which is something that's recommended to try and improve the kind of coordination between your brain, your eyes and your hands. And gradually, like year by year, things got better. But I still have some issues. I break so many things around the house. Like I put clothes on the wrong way. I get toothpaste all over me and forget to brush my hair and things. And every time I have to do a sequential task, like putting a washing machine on or cooking a meal according to a recipe, it's like doing it for the first time. Like I don't have a sequential memory. So it looks weird, but it's okay. Like I live with it. Do come across quite a few assholes. I was actually on TV once on this TV quiz trivia show in the UK, and I made some funny gestures. And afterwards, I got lots of abuse on social media. Someone even set up a YouTube channel, which was just people watching me on the show and laughing at me in their homes, which was really nice. So I appreciate that. I have lots of issues with things like going through airports is a common one. Like it takes me ages to get things out of the bag, and sometimes people are really rude. Once a man in Edinburgh Airport told me just to stop being stupid, and everyone else in the line was really happy that this person had kind of confronted me and humiliated me. So yeah, not everyone has empathy. Not everyone tries to put themselves in other people's shoes. But life isn't awful. Many people have it much worse than me. It may or may not be dyspraxia related, but I have a really good memory for things other than sequences. I'm quite good at solving abstract problems. I'm really good at multitasking and connecting different threads. Working in tech has been challenging. When I started, especially, the issues I still had with typing back when we didn't really have IDEs. Like I remember the really old versions of IntelliJ, when you didn't have as much functionalities, you didn't have annotation processing for things like Lombok. Those were the days. But as my career's gone on, I've been less involved in things I struggle with, less involved in typing lots of code, and more involved in things that I'm a bit better at, abstract design tasks and plan discussions. And I think since I've become an engineering manager, my background has kind of helped me have quite a bit of empathy with people as well, and the different challenges that people have, and accept lots of different people for who they are. But I have spent quite a lot of my life worried that people would treat me differently, and so pretending I have nothing wrong with me. I was always worried when I was younger that if anyone knew that I had some sort of condition, I'd make less money, never get promoted, people wouldn't want me to be in important teams. And I know that other people feel the same who have similar conditions. And I know that many companies have promotion processes that reward things like visibility or the ability to navigate social structures. It's not something I have an issue with, but certainly for people who have autistic spectrum disorders, those can be issues. And people can struggle to fill what some people class as leadership or visibility and those sort of things. So I think there's so much more we can do for people with disabilities or people with neurodiverse conditions or whatever you want to call them. So I just want to finish by kind of saying some things that you can do. Try and show empathy. There was that thread on Tech Team where people were talking about diversity and whether we do enough, whether we do too much for diversity, inclusion, and belonging. And Zayad said something really amazing about trying to put ourselves in the shoes of others. And I advise everyone to think about that sometimes and try and do that. You know, if you are pair programming with someone, and don't assume that they can work in the same way as you do, or maybe type as fast. Maybe if someone seems like they communicate in a different way, it might not be because they have some sort of condition, but equally try and have empathy with others and ask difficult questions about the organization. Like, some things that occur to me is whether it's fair to have a timed codility or live coding exercise. Do we bias towards candidates that do things fast? What if we gave people 48 hours to complete a solution and used the interview meeting to have them explain what they'd done and talk through it? Does the idea of good vibes eliminate people who might have issues with social interaction because of things like autistic spectrum disorder? I already mentioned visibility as a thing as well. And I have some issues with us kind of talking about that as part of our promotion process. The final thing I think we can do is hold each other to high standards. If people say something is lame or crazy, maybe advise them to use more respectful language. But we all make mistakes. I make mistakes. I say things I shouldn't. I act in ways I shouldn't. So the minimum standard I think we should all have is just to try to get better and help those around us get better. That's all I have to say today. I really hope that was interesting, and I'm absolutely happy to answer any questions. And if anyone wants to DM me with any questions or anything, or just wants to talk, then please do. I'm more than happy to speak to anyone and do anything I can. Yeah, so that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you very much. We'll give some minutes for the people to start asking questions in the Q&A. We're good on time, so we can use some minutes.
I would like only to say one thing. Thank you, Mark, for sharing that. Really awesome.
Thanks for having me, and thanks everyone for listening.
Yeah, I think it's great that we give this kind of visibility. So thank you very much for sharing this. There are some messages already in the chat thanking you for it, if you want to take a look.
I have a question. I mean, I came in late, so I don't know if you've talked about it, but do you think we need to have a review of our competencies or try to widen them, especially in engineering? Because I think we were discussing this before. It's like a very kind of, you have to be good across the board, and it's kind of a very specific type of engineer. And do you think we need to widen it to be a bit more inclusive?
I think we do. I think the notion of inclusion and diversity doesn't even exist in the current manager competency framework. Like, it's not mentioned anywhere that's an expectation of a manager. It's mentioned at one level of the engineering framework. But I think we should go beyond just mentioning things. I think we should look at it and say, does this profile exclude certain types of people who could make a difference? And I think it's the competencies, it's the way we hire, it's the way we reward. It's kind of throughout everything we do, we should be asking those questions and asking them regularly. Yeah. I think we should, and I know we're in that process right now of reevaluating these things. I'm involved in evaluating the manager ones. That's how I know that inclusion and diversity isn't mentioned anywhere. And I think, yeah, we should all push for that, because I think it's just a vital part of us being the most happy, healthy organization with belonging that we can.
We already have the first question. Mark, if you want to take a look.
Okay, so yeah, the question, if I could summarize it, is how do I feel society is evolving towards kind of recognizing and embracing and accepting people with these invisible conditions. I think awareness of them is higher. Like certainly some of the kind of the most known ones. I think we're still in a place where the common representations of these things are quite basic. And to give an example, like if you watch movies or TV shows, people with autism are usually kind of some like kind of, you know, Rain Man or an Imitation Game, Alan Turing kind of like, you know, doing some incredible stuff. And it's not, we shouldn't treat people as like having superpowers or, you know, or being this way, because it really sets a bad precedent and it isn't representative of the community as a whole. So I think there are quite basic stereotypes, but awareness is higher. So yeah, I still think there's a lot more to do, because most people are not, you know, like the representations that we see in the media and on TV.
Thank you, Mark. If I could ask one question. First, brilliant talk. I think it's one that we're very fortunate to have. So thank you so much. The question was, I'm wondering, is there a point in your life where, and this is slightly on the more personal side, but is there a point in your life where you turned your way of thinking of this hidden disability and from like a negative to a positive, and you can then, what was that like turning process like, if it happened like that?
There wasn't a day in my life where something changed, but I think I went from like school, university, like environments that are quite hostile to difference. University less so, but definitely school. And then like in early jobs, you know, you're junior, you're very insecure. I was very fortunate that I worked at a couple of different companies though, that were super accepting and focused on inclusion in general, not on these specific issues, but on things like LGBTQ plus, and on, you know, looking at trying to address gender pay gaps and, you know, and talking about mental health and those sort of things. And being in an environment where I saw, hold on a minute, people are accepted. There's still stuff to do, but people are trying to address these things. It made me confident and comfortable to be myself more, even though no one was really talking about what I was talking about at the time, or what I wanted to talk about, or what affected me. So I think it's the environment that really matters, and kind of being in that place, not for like a month, but over like 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, you kind of realize, hey, this is genuine and I can be myself and I can talk about these things. So that's kind of what has motivated me a bit to talk about it more. I think, you know, we're all responsible for building that environment, and hopefully for other people, whatever it is that makes them who they are, they feel they can authentically be themselves and you know, and at work and in their life.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, honestly.
There's another question coming in.
Yeah, so the question is, if other people are, you know, might be going through the same or similar struggles and are not aware that they have a condition, is there something that they can do? There's a lot of online support groups. I think it's a medical condition diagnosed for me by a developmental psychologist when I was young. Obviously, you know, you can go to a medical professional for an assessment and see if they agree. Unfortunately, not all doctors are kind of supportive or interested or aware of these conditions, especially when there's something developmental and it's usually something a specific specialist diagnoses. So often in online communities, you'll see people saying, hey, is there somebody anyone knows, like a doctor in this particular city who has some awareness around the topic and is like a specialist on this that you can recommend? And so that might be like one thing that that I've seen people do. But I would read, educate more. I'm happy to talk with anyone about it. I know quite a bit about it, but by no means I'm an expert or a medical professional. And I think I could also, I don't feel super qualified to give advice about what to do here, but I think I have seen people in the past that once they do go to a doctor and they do get some sort of diagnosis, they do feel a lot better. They kind of feel like, wow, I can suddenly put a name to this thing that all my life has known made me just something a little different. So I think that's a potential path. And I can have a think as well, and I can post something in Slack, because I've never thought about it. I've been very lucky that I was diagnosed when I was a small child.
Great. So we can wait one last minute. We're good on time to see. Oh, look, one more question. Awesome. You have one more question.
So I think this is just advice, yeah. From someone else to go to a doctor. Don't try and do self-treatment. Obviously, there is support and things you can read online, but a doctor, a medical professional is, a person who can perform a diagnosis. Just hope you find the right one.
Awesome. I think we can wrap it up here, but we can continue with this discussion. More questions on the channel. So thank you very much for the two of you, Matti and Mark. Great talks. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for attending, and let's move the discussion and more questions you might have to the Slack channel. So thank you everyone, and see you on the next one.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
I'll stop the recording.